The topic you are going to study today is mixtures. As you can see it on your screen, it is on page number 11 and 12 of your KPK textbook board. Do open your books in front of you during lecture so that everything is clear to you. The word mixture is a very common one in your daily life, or the word most common we use is mix. What does comes to your mind? To mix any two things or to mix any three things? Today let's study about mixtures in terms of chemistry. So mixtures are defined as it is made up of two or more substances that are not chemically combined, or a mixture is a combination of two or more pure substances in which pure substance retains its individual chemical properties. A mixture may consist of elements, compounds, or boths. It may be composed of solids, liquids, or gases. Let's see now what can be those two or more substances that are to be mixed. As in the case of compounds, you studied that two or three elements are combined in a fixed ratio. So what's the case in mixtures? In mixtures, these two or more substances can be two same elements, or they can also be different one. It can also be an element and a compound. It can also be two different molecules, or it can also be a compound and a molecule, as it's much clear from the image, as you can see on your screen. It means that in case of mixtures, we are not bound with the ratio. Also, you saw in the definition that they are not combined chemically. Means no sort of chemical bond is involved in mixtures as it is in the case of compounds. The substances are mixed physically. Physically means you can mix two or more things simply by hands, by stirring, by boiling, or by melting. Let's understand it more clearly from a few more important points. As we studied that they are not chemically combined, so the components or the substances are not mixed in any fixed ratio. Means any number of elements and compounds can mix. It is not specified in the case of mixture as they are not combined chemically. So the mixtures which are formed can be separated by any physical means, that is evaporation or filtration, etc. You have studied these terms in your previous lectures. The components which are combined in the mixtures never lose their chemical properties. For example, if we stir salt and water, or if we mix salt in water in any proportion, salt will never lose its chemical properties. If we evaporate water and we get NaCl, that is salt, back in its original form, it will be with its same properties. There will be no change in it. Now you must be clear about what is a mixture and how it is formed. Now let's see some of the examples of mixtures. First one, you have sugar and water mixture. Sugar is dissolved in water. It forms a mixture which is sweet in taste. The sweetness is due to the presence of sugar in water. Another most common example of mixture is alloys. It is a mixture of metals with other elements, and these other elements can be metals or non-metals. They are combined to increase the durability of the metals, and they are combined by melting. The best examples of alloys are steel, stainless steel, brass, bronze, etc. Now what is steel? An alloy of iron with carbon and nickel or cobalt is basically steel. What is brass? An alloy of copper with zinc. The coins that are being used are also made up of brass, and they are also alloys. Here are some more examples of the mixture. A rock, which is a mixture of different kinds of stones, or rock is also a good example of mixture. Sandwich, mixture of bread, tomato, meat. And then cold drink, which is a mixture of sugar and water. Lime juice, mixture of lime, sugar and salt. Now let's see the types of mixture. There are two types of mixture, that is homogeneous and heterogeneous. From difference you will be more clear, so let's study it in the form of difference. The word homo means same, यानी कि एक जैसा, and the word hetero means different, यानी कि मुख्तलिफ. Now what does it comes from homo? So if you see this mixture, if you see a homogeneous mixture, it's all the same, means its composition will be same, its appearance will be same, there will be no difference found. But when you see a heterogeneous mixture, what happens? You see different things. The composition is not the same, the appearance is not the same. So that's why it is called as heterogeneous mixture. And from same we means it has uniform composition throughout its mass. And from difference we mean it does not have uniform composition. As composition, you all know that they are the things from which it is made. Means जिन चीज़ों से मिलकर mixture बनता है, that is the heterogeneous mixture. Then homogeneous mixtures are also called as solution, and heterogeneous mixtures are also called as suspension. We'll discuss this later on. Here are a few examples of homogeneous mixture, that is table salt, NaCl dissolved in water, or sugar dissolved in water, or chocolate milk, etc. And in heterogeneous mixture you have salad, it can be fruit salad, it can be vegetable salad, then dirt, sand and water. It will be more clear to you from the pictures. Homogeneous mixtures are those where you can't see each of the components separately. As on your screen you can see a glass in which salt or sugar have been mixed. So the appearance is same. So that's why it is a homogeneous mixture. Heterogeneous mixtures are those where you can see each of the components separately. A mixture of stones in soil is an example of heterogeneous mixture. As well as salad, as you can see on the screen, that is the vegetable salad. Each component is a different one. The texture and the appearance is not the same. That's why it is a heterogeneous mixture. Then types of mixture. At the homogeneous mixture side you have that chocolate milk. Chocolate powder is completely mixed in the milk. The appearance is completely the same. And on the heterogeneous side you are having a fruit salad. You can see different fruits separately. The appearance is different. The composition is different. So that's why it is heterogeneous mixture. Now you studied two terms. For homogeneous told you that homogeneous mixture is also called as a solution. So a solution is a type of mixture or a special type of mixture. A solution is a homogeneous mixture that combines a solute and a solvent. Now it does come to your mind that what is a solute and what is a solvent. So solute, the solid part that gets dissolved, for example salt and sugar. Or we also say that solute which is present in the little quantity. Solvent, the liquid part that does the dissolving, in which the solute is dissolved, is called as solvent. Or the part which is present in more quantity is called as the solvent. For example water. And water is also called as universal solvent. When salt is added into water, salt dissolves in water. Salt is known as the solute, substance that dissolves in the solvent, and water is known as the solvent, substance that dissolves the solute. The final mixture is known as the solution. I hope you are clear about what are solution. Now you can see in the image, on the spoon you are having salt, that is the solute. In the glass you are having water, that is the solvent. And when they both combine and are mixed, it is called as a solution or a homogeneous mixture. Then suspension, I said that heterogeneous mixtures are also called as suspension. So what is suspension? When a solid does not dissolve in a liquid, a suspension is formed. जब कंप्लीट मिक्सिंग ना हो, आपको दो डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स नज़र आ रही हों अपीयरेंस में, दैट इज़ बेसिकली सस्पेंशन. अ सस्पेंशन इज़ अ मिक्सचर इन विच insoluble particles are suspended in a gas or liquid. Means they are not dissolved, but you can see it on the lower layer of the liquid or gas. As you can see in the image, that is water and sand. Sand does not dissolve in water, therefore it is a suspension. As you can see in the image in which water is dissolved, sand is dissolved in water, so the mixture still has undissolved solid particles settled at the bottom with some particles still floating. So that is called as suspension. Now the next topic on your book, page number 13 and 14, is difference between compound and mixture. In detail, you have studied about compounds and mixtures in your previous lectures. Mixture in the same lecture and compound in the previous lecture. So you have a complete knowledge about compound and mixture. So you can easily differentiate between compound and mixture. Let's see what are the main differences between compounds and mixtures. So, in the case of compounds, it is formed by chemical combination of atoms of the elements. Means 2 or 3 elements are combined by a chemical bond. A chemical bond is present between them. While in the case of mixture, it is formed by physical combination or mixing up of the substances. Means they can be mixed by hands, by stirring, anyway physical means. But in compound, a chemical bond is involved and then a compound is formed. 2 elements are combined by a chemical bond. Then the second difference you have, the constituents in compound lose their original properties. For example, in the case of water H2O is formed of hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen is a gas as well as oxygen is a gas. But when they are combined, when they are formed by a chemical bond, when they are combined by a chemical bond and form a compound, that is water, it is in the liquid form. So what happens? They lose their properties, as well as they have different chemical properties when a compound is formed. In the case of mixture, the constituents retain their properties, means no change in the properties occur. For example, if you are mixing salt in water, so after that, if you evaporate the water from that salt and you get that salt NaCl back, there will be no change in its properties. It will be the same. Then the next, compound always has fixed composition by mass, means the elements which are combined to form compound, they are always combined in a fixed ratio. For example, the same example of water in H2O, always 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen combine to form water. But what in the case of mixture? Mixture do not have fixed composition by mass, means they can combine in any ratio. For example, NaCl and water. You can add any quantity of NaCl in water and you can take any quantity of water. You are not specified with the proportion. So compounds have fixed composition while the mixture do not have any fixed composition. The components of the compound cannot be separated by physical methods. They are combined by a chemical bond and chemical bonds are not easily broken. Means any physical method cannot be used. Like you cannot use filtration, you cannot use fermentation, or you cannot use distillation for the separation of compounds. Means the water which is formed does not break down into hydrogen and oxygen on any temperature, on any specific temperature. A very high, a very large amount of heat or temperature is required to break that water molecule into hydrogen gas and oxygen. So it is not easy to break a compound. The components of the mixture can be separated by physical methods. Any simple physical method can be used to separate two components which are combined in a mixture. For example, in case of NaCl dissolved in water, you can separate them by evaporation. If you use the physical method, that is evaporation, you can simply separate NaCl from water. Then every compound is represented by its chemical formula. You have studied a list of chemical formulas in your previous lecture of compounds. So you know that compounds are always represented by specific chemical formulas. As in the case of salt, you have the formula NaCl. In the case of water, you have a chemical formula H2O. But in the case of mixture, they are not represented by any chemical formula, because sometimes two components are formed, sometimes three components are formed, so they are not represented by any chemical formula. Compound has homogeneous composition, means they have a same composition. Water is always water, means it is always liquid. Or you say it may have three different states, but it is always have same composition, means it has same appearance. But in the case of mixture can be homogeneous and it can also be heterogeneous, means in the case of homogeneous, you have NaCl or sugar dissolved in water, and in the case of heterogeneous mixture, you are having the example of salad, means different composition they have. So compounds have a same composition, while the mixture can have same and different composition. Compounds has sharp and fixed melting point. From sharp and fixed melting point, we mean melting and boiling point. From sharp and fixed melting and boiling point, we actually mean that the melting and boiling point is always the same. It does not get changed, as you know that the boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade. So the boiling point never changes. But mixture do not have sharp and fixed melting and boiling points. Their melting and boiling points vary. They can change. They are not fixed. Now you can understand it with the help of a few examples. For example, if you physically mix iron and sulfur, so a mixture is formed and they are not mixed by any chemical bond in the case of iron and sulfur. So you can simply separate those iron from the sulfur by using a magnet, because they are not chemically combined, they are just mixed physically. By stirring, you can mix sulfur and iron in the form of powder. And if you take a magnet and you put that magnet on that mixture, the iron fillings will get attached to the iron. So it is a physical mixing, not a chemical combination. Then in the case of compound, if you heat iron and sulfur strongly, what happens? They react with each other and they form iron sulfide. They lose their properties. Iron and sulfur, they both will lose their properties. And what will they form? They will form a compound which is known as iron sulfide. And this compound have a complete different appearance from the elements they are formed, that is iron and sulfur, and it is having completely different properties from the compound, from the elements they are formed, that is iron and sulfur. Now it is a new compound, that is iron sulfide, and it cannot be separated with magnet, as you saw in the case of mixture. So it is now what? It is a compound. So this is all about mixtures and a difference between compound and mixtures.